สวัสดีค่ะทุกคน Hello everyone, this is on the Blue Cloud channel and I'm back with a recap of the final episode of the series Step by Step. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to talk about what happened for each part and I might forget some details and sorry about that and even rushing the events. So I suggest you to watch if you want the full episode first in case you don't want to miss anything. And above that, I'm also going to share some of my thoughts. Okay, after watching 1 hour and 40 minutes of the episode, I was left by some mixed feelings. But then, when I went through it for a second and a third time, I began to like this final and to accept it. Even though I might low-key will felt a bit unsatisfied for some things. For the first part, it was indeed 2 years later, and we learned that Pat opened his own agency called Broccoli House with Pishol and PA. Honestly, I was thinking of Pinan because she was the one to work with him and because she was a great mentor for him. But yes, it's still nice if she became the new manager of Gen Group thanks to Kunjang, and okay, it's also nice that we see PA again after she gave birth to her child. The fact that Pat has his own ad agency, it was beyond my expectations because it's a great step for him in terms of professional development and he even wins some award. But it's a pity they made a mistake for the writing on the trophy, so it was kind of unprofessional from them. So Broccoli House was going to work again with Forge, and Forge was inviting them to do a speaking brief, and they were happy about that. The name itself wasn't quite appealing, but it was just maybe my preference. While they were preparing the presentation before joining the meeting, Pat saw Kunseng after 2 years, but they didn't talk to each other. They were just staring at each other and then they were attending the meeting. And talking about Pinan, she was indeed with Kunseng and it was so funny but mostly cute and happy to see the small meeting with Pishot and Pinan. I wanted Pat to join them as well, but he was somehow shocked and stunned seeing Kunseng again. I felt a bit bad for both of them and mostly Kunseng because I really felt he wanted to talk with Pat but he didn't know how to begin with and it was awkward again. The next scene was about PA talking to Pite and Pishot and Pat saw them but didn't hear anything because they were watching them from the house. It was kind of funny honestly. Okay, the main point was that Pite wanted Pat to take over the karaoke project. It does make sense since it was Pat's idea, but Pat wasn't happy about that. He even was angry or sulking and he walked away from his friends because he thought that Kunjang is behind everything. The scene which I want to talk about is Jab and Jeng. Jab was getting ready to go to Japan and I was like, what? And Jeng was the one who had to send him at the airport. At first I was happy, but finally they were going to meet at the airport, but instead it was him going to Japan to see him and apparently Jeng knew it. It was a bit funny when his brother said something like, are you sure Jeng knows you are going to see him there? Because if you get caught, I won't be able to save you. So Kunjang really thought his brother was getting there in a stalker. He was going there in a stalker mode. And Jab was a bit sassy because he was like, don't worry, Jane is different than Pat. He was hurting his own brother. It was somehow a trigger, saying his name, but he ended up apologizing and saying it was a good sign if Pat was ignoring him. Admit that Pat still has some feelings for Jane. Okay. Honestly, if I were Kunjang, I would try to forget him and move on even though it's hard. The second part was about showing both of them still had feelings for each other. They were thinking of the past, but the memories that Jeng had of Pat was about when he was presenting and sharing his idea. So we kind of see some similar scene at the present, but for each team on how they were working on the Forge project, and indeed Pinan did the presentation and on the other side Pat was doing some suggestions. After the meeting, Kunseng waited for him and Pat went to talk to him, but it was still awkward and even worse, Pat was somehow sassy. He was in a defensive mode or something and he gave the impression that he didn't want to let anyone, and of course Kunzeng, to hurt him or step on him. He blamed on Kunzeng for being behind everything, such as the karaoke and even the project of Forge. I think in 2 years he didn't change his perception. Pat is someone who likes to jump in conclusions, and it's not good. He has to let go of his kind of thoughts. It was clearly a big misunderstanding between them. So after this incident happened, Kunzeng went to see his friend there to have some explanations from him, and Kunzeng asked him why he didn't talk about it before with him, because Peter was quick and went directly to talk about it with Pierre. But for Peter, it was a way to convince Pat to take this project, and it's because it was Pat's idea. So if he let someone than him, and when the project would be out, how would Pat be reacting or feel about it? And Ted was also sorry, but he didn't inform Kunzeng before about that. But he said that Kunzeng was also at fault, but he didn't explain everything first. One thing that I want to talk about is the conversation between Pat and his father. His father kind of helped him to clear his feelings a bit, and I liked when he said that Kunzeng was also hurt by this and that he didn't intend to hurt Pat. His father said nice things and he didn't stand by his son's side nor Kunzeng's side, but I think he was sharing an objective or neutral thought. After that, Pat finally decided to take this project, and he went to Peter with Pierre to do his presentation. And then, I don't know why Peter didn't consider his feelings, but once he mentioned Kunzeng's name, it was a trigger for Pat. Nonetheless, it could lead to a positive way because he quickly went to see him for a few minutes, and Pat finally apologized for what he had said to him earlier, like being a jerk. Not a jerk, but he admitted it was not nice of him. So the misunderstanding was finally cleared between them. Later in the evening, Pat decided to unblock Kunzeng, and when Kunzeng noticed that, he was so happy about that. His reaction was so relatable. It made me also smile seeing him like this. It was just a pity that no one sent message because they didn't know how to start a conversation, but I feel like it's a realistic aspect because it's been a long time, so it makes sense that we didn't send any messages to each other, but still I have a small hope. We are now going to talk about the third part of this episode. Pat, Hood, Pierre, Pichot and Peter were at the restaurant eating, and mostly to talk about the karaoke project and watching a small ad video to promote that now they have in the restaurant in a room to do karaoke. When they served food, it happens there was some shrimp nuggets, and it triggered Pat because remember, it was Kunzeng who used to make these shrimp nuggets. It's like his dish or snack signature. Pat wasn't feeling okay, so he left the room. It was Put who went after him to comfort him, and it was funny and a bit sad when Put said the station was similar with them, but Pat said no, it's different because he wasn't running away from him. But in reality, the fact that Pat broke Kunzeng for 2 years, that was worse and hard to believe. But anyway, somehow Put helped him to comfort his feelings with Kunzeng, so he went to sing a song, and I was like, even though we only have the right because it was up on Pat's song, but I wish he could sing another song. I felt it wasn't a nice choice to be honest. We wanted to make this scene because there was a promise between Kunzeng and Pat, but I felt it was a bit dramatic. And when it happens that while Kunzeng washed some dishes, he heard Pat singing and went right away to see him. And guess what? We stared to each other a while, sad puppy eyes, and then Kunzeng walked away. At first, Pat was standing there, didn't know what to do, but his friends told him to run after him, so he did. Pat went to see Kunzeng in the kitchen. This scene was quite important for both of them because finally they seriously talked to each other about their feelings, and I'm glad Pat admitted he shouldn't behave like this at the time and that he wasn't angry at him. But excuse me, you walked away and you blocked him on social media for 2 years. He's such a drama queen, to be honest. But I'm still happy that we had this kind of conversation. It's just that Pat was somehow drunk and it annoyed me. It was unnecessary to make him drunk, especially in this kind of scene. Anyways, this conversation is a step for them. They ended up being reconciled. I admit that I even loved they hugged each other. It was endearing to see them. I thought for a second they could kiss each other passionately, but the hug was also cute. Before to say goodbye, Kunzeng promised to come to see him at home the next day to spend time with each other. In this way, we're getting to the last part of this episode. As promised, Kunzeng went to his home early in the next morning, and Pat's father led them by going to play tennis. I think he kind of knew that they would want some privacy right there. When they were at home, Kunzeng gave him some fish porridge as breakfast. Okay, for me, I prefer to eat with meat like chicken rather than fish, but it's okay. And yes, it's not shocking for me, even though I never eat rice porridge in the morning unless I'm sick. And usually, if we got sick, we don't add anything, just rice porridge. But if you ask me for the lunch or dinner, I prefer with meat. Okay, that was just a detail. The important element was that, if I'm not mistaken, they would restart their relationship, and when Kunzeng asked Pat if he remembered last night, he said no because he was too drunk, and oh my god, I was so annoyed. That was one of the rare times I wanted to break my computer and slap him literally. I hate that Pat is like this every time he's drunk. And when Kunzeng heard it, he stood out and I thought he was going to cry, but no, he presented himself to Pat like an introduction, as we have never met each other. Honestly, it was kind of funny, a bit cringe but cute after all. I'm glad that Pat played along with him, but I wish we could do this maybe outside like in the first coffee shop with a croissant, but they decided to introduce themselves that way. After that scene, I would like to mention another one with Kunzeng, who went to his father's office, not only with casual gloves, but also with a resignation letter. He gave the attitude of someone who wants to do his own things, but he doesn't care anymore about being criticized, and now he became somehow a rebel. It was pretty funny when his father asked him if there was something we could talk about it, and I was like, "Sir, you already knew that your son wasn't interested anymore." The father was right when he said it's more because of a young guy named Pat. But Kunzeng, who was his perfect son, has changed, and I think it's because he values himself. He started to think he has the right to choose what he wants to do with his own life. I applaud him and I'm proud of him because it could be hard to be in his position, but he fights till the end to pursue his own happiness. But guess what? The father took the resignation letter and put it in the trash bin, but we can imagine Zheng still win. Okay, the next scene was with his mother who was going to meet Pat and Kunzeng, but I'm quite disappointed because Pat, even though he was scared, but I'm also glad he said hello in a polite manner, but he was panicking that he didn't really behave well. Like I wanted him to try to talk with Kunzeng's mother, and even she asked 2 questions, it was too short. She asked him what was he doing and how old was he. And about the age, I'm still annoyed because in the first episode, he said 25. So normally he had to be 27, not 26. And you know, it still had some editing problem because he said to Zheng's mother he was soon 26 in this October, but before this scene, he already celebrated his birthday. So I was like, that was the wrong timing or what? I was a bit confused. Okay, so the mother didn't stay too long because she had a phone call and then she left the coffee shop. And Pat had the audacity to sulk because she said to Kunzeng, take care of your friend, but he was the first one to show less. After that, we had some lovey-dovey moments. Kunzeng made food every time, even his birthday cake. But did anyone notice that Pat had salted cake for his birthday cake? I found it a bit weird since for me we had to eat sweet cake. But okay, let's talk about the ending. It's just that we were in some furniture section talking about the future home and first impression was speaking the budget involved. And I read that when Kunjang said he still thinks of the moment he saw Pat struggling with drinks on his hands, I suddenly felt nostalgic. And then we left hand in hand. Voila, it's finished. I really had to say goodbye to Step by Step now. Even though it has flaws, such as some scene could be more developed and the timeline was confusing, so it's a pity for this part, and I was kind of disturbed by Pat's short hair and then he had long hair, even though I understand it was because of how we managed to shoot some scene, but it gave the impression that we didn't think that for viewers these details could play a big role to judge the quality and the consideration of the production. But it accompanied me for the past 3 months and I enjoy it. I was also thinking how much I wanted to see the next episode, so I had to wait next week. But since I made a recap for each episode, I was a bit nervous and panicked, but I'm still happy and proud that I also finally finished with the recap. It took my time, my energy, and sometimes I felt annoyed and upset because it went wrong, but then I found some ways and I managed till the end. The series might be finished, but I think I'm going to do 1 or 2 fan-made videos, and maybe when I'm not sure about that, 2 reactions video. Let's see. Okay, thank you if anyone listened or watched this video till the end, and I wish you all the best and see you in the next video. Bye bye.